Thank you very much, Matty. And boy, oh boy, this weather, Andrew, this happened last year with the second race of the Fujitsu series. It got nasty on the warm-up lap and the safety car made numerous appearances. Today we've got a smaller field, 19 cars in race 2 of the Fujitsu series, and it's the penultimate round, so there's a championship very much up on the line.
Yeah, the problem these boys will be experiencing out there is as they head to the grid, they'll be working out whether or not they can change onto a wet tyre or stay on the slicks, run the gamble and see what the weather brings.
The grid for race 2 is the finishing results of race 1. So Jonathan Webb and David Russell line up on the front row. Webb leads by 40 points. It might sound like a bit, but it's actually not, considering there's 150 points up for grabs for the win in this race. James Moffat starting from 9th. He had a drama yesterday. They tuned that car up and it wasn't too pretty. He made a mistake, got the throttle and the brake, had a spin. Taz Douglas is at the back of the field. He missed yesterday's race after a crash in qualifying, so he at least gets some laps in this race. Of course, the car he'll drive tomorrow is being damaged with Sam Waltz behind the wheel.
James Moffat's car looked really ugly yesterday in the race. A lot of weight transfer from the front of the car to the rear, up over the top of the hill, and hopefully they've tuned that car for him today because he's one fast peddler.
Now everybody is on the Dunlop Control slick tyre here, so if the weather turns nasty, we're going to be in for one hairy run around the mountain, because there's a lot of drivers here for the first time in the Fujitsu V8 Supercar Series. We'll be in car with James Moffat in the Norton 360 Falcon. Green flag at the back, we're good to go. 14 laps around Mount
5 seconds.
Webb and Russell, the championship contenders. Daniel Gaunt and Damien Asaylan on road 2. And the Kiwi in the Silver Falcon has made a flyer. Jay Burdick's gone nowhere. Turn 1, Russell leads, Webb and Gaunt. It's all Falcons at the front. The Fujitsu series with James Moffat.
The start is so important here at a track like Mount Panorama. It gives you that clear view, the first lap over the top of the hill. When you're stuck in this train, you can't hit with apex points.
And already the yellow flag's flying. The safety car is being called. Look out here, Brad Lowe nearly wipes out his teammate Damien Asaylan. They'll share a car tomorrow. Could have been tough for the relationship.
Okay, safety car. What the situation is, we're concerned at the amount of water on the circuit at the top of the mountain. What we will do, the cars will proceed single file around. You will pick them up. We'll continue to get reports and determine how long we need to have you out for. So just stand by.
SP Tools Airview cam there, and in the Fujitsu series they don't make pit stops. It's strictly a sprint race series, so in this scenario with changeable weather, this is a safety concern. Obviously they're not on exactly the tyre that perhaps is applicable for the top of the mountain, so they'll have a look at the conditions. If it does turn nasty, and look, there's enough water up there, but a slick tyre's not too nice.
That's a really good call from race control up at the top of the hill here. As we've seen in previous races here at Bathurst, it can be dry down the bottom of the hill, and then when the guys have got to the top of the mountain there, it is incredibly wet. That could have caught a lot of guys out. I think this is a terrific move. We'll just follow the pace car for a few laps.
It has happened in the past where the rain has got worse, the weather's turned around, and they've stopped things, allowed everybody to come in, put some wets on and restart over a shorter race distance. So we'll monitor this situation.
That race control safety car acknowledging 60 kilometres an hour, 60.
Thank you, safety car. Damien, are you on channel? Go ahead, Paul. Damien, what our intention is just to run the safety car for a lap or two to determine what the weather conditions are going to do. Obviously at this stage we have deemed it too wet to run up top on dry tyres, so we'll run the safety car for this lap and we'll get some reports from the safety car driver. Once we understand what's happening, we'll advise.
Copy, thank you. Continuing under safety car until further reports. Thank you.
Safety car, you can increase your speed to 80 kilometres per hour, please, as long as you consider that to be a safe speed for the prevailing conditions.
With that, race control, increasing speeds to 80. Race control, safety car.
Go ahead, safety car.
The information, the track is wet from flag point 7 round to turn 18, which is where we're at.
Okay, thank you, safety car. Damien, you on channel? Go ahead, Paul. Damien of the safety car will continue to lead the circuit, the field round for a minimum of one more lap.
Copy, minimum one more lap under safety car, minimum 1 lap.
Control, safety car.
Go ahead, safety car.
For information, it is raining in the chase.
Okay, thank you, safety car. Medical car coming into pit lane. Thank you, medical car. Red flag, red flag, red flag. To Damien.
Go ahead, thank you, Paul.
Damien, what we need to do is the safety car will come into pit lane. The red flags have been displayed. This part of the race has been stopped. We would like all cars to proceed.
It's the smartest option to have there, Noons. Look, it's ridiculously wet across the top of the hill. And the best option for these guys is to be out on the track with a drying track on wets rather than being out on a ridiculously wet circuit on slicks, obviously.
And I think that it's going to kick up potentially with some dodgy weather around, what effect that has on the top 10 shootout this afternoon. We haven't had a wet shootout since 2000. It's quite a while between drinks. We've been lucky with the Saturday weather here at Bathurst. That's what's ready and waiting for the 18 Fujitsu drivers, wet weather tyres.
The reason that they've red flagged this race is these Fujitsu guys are not, and the teams are not geared up to do a proper pit stop under race conditions. So I'll red flag it, let everybody do it in the right amount of time, make it as safe as possible, get these guys back out and restart the race again.
Just quickly, the WOW Racing Commodore paired up with Bradley Jones, the great man himself. How's it all travelling? I know you were a bit down on engine speed yesterday, but you're a bit happier today.
Yeah, we changed the engine overnight. The car was absolutely terrific today. Lots of power under the bonnet. Chassis was working good, and we were 11th. So, you know, for us, that was a real good confidence booster. You were saying that, yeah, I'm sharing with Brad, and I'll tell you what, I think he's been here 30 years or something like that, but it doesn't make him any better at arriving on time. I'm still waiting for him every morning, but we're having a good time in the WOW Racing Commodore, that's for sure.
Okay, I'm standing down here with the two biggest liars in pit lane. This is Craig Lowndes and this is Jerry Moore, his engineer. I've just asked them about, you saw them doing the changes to their car in the last practice session. They tried to have a lend to me, didn't know I was watching over their shoulders. Now, we saw you make those changes. Firstly, Jeremy, what were the changes you were doing?
Well, basically rear spring and camber. We started the session more of a race setup and then went to more of a quality top 10 shootout setup. So for racing, you sort of want more a softer car and look after the tyres better. But yeah, a bit stiffer and sharper for shootout.
So the rear spring, you went stiffer in the rear spring? Okay, now Craig, to drive the car with a stiffer rear spring, what did that feel like?
Well, basically, it sort of sharpened everything up. But to the tyres we were on, we sort of went on, obviously, our qualifying tyres. So it's a little bit more oversteer, which you'd know about. But, you know, for us, this weather is obviously a bit of a concern because now the rain's coming down. That may just throw all that game plan out the window and just have to might soften the car off to try and get some temperature into the wets. But it's going to be interesting. It's going to be the same for everyone. Top 10 shootouts obviously coming here, and it's going to make up a bit of a mix the way this is. But I think the start grid tomorrow is very important for us to make sure we've got a good, clean car for the start of that.
Well, that's going to be a challenge now for you, Jeremy, isn't it? If we've got sort of a semi-wet, dry position for the shootout this afternoon, how are you going to approach that? Will you be brave enough to change the car, or will you run it as a dry car?
I think I'd run it as a dry car because if you try to compensate too much to go too soft for the wet, then you won't generate any tyre temp and then it'll be slow anyway. So you really need to give them a car that they're familiar with, and it's up to them then.
You can see when I came into the garage, both these guys were talking, just hanging with each other. This is the typical driver-race engineer relationship, and I can't emphasise just how important that is. I mean, is there anything you two blokes don't do together?
Oh, yeah, there's probably...
Let's not go there, let's not go there.
But look, it's right. It's almost like a marriage because everything that I rely on Jeremy to obviously decipher what I say about the car, and then we'll put that into engineering geniuses and make changes to springs, roll bars, obviously ride heights, roll centres and all that sort of stuff. So I can tell him what the car's doing. He's then going to put it into a practice about what we need to do. The guys that are around us got to obviously go to work. But for my job, makes my life a lot easier, obviously, when you have a great relationship. Because when I say it's got a little bit of understeer, it might be full locks to lock, but he can see that from the data and say, yeah, your little bit of understeer is lock to lock. Now we need to make a big change. And I think Jeremy's story as an engineer is a good one too. Jeremy actually used to work for myself. We plucked him out of Queensland University, and for all young aspiring engineers, I mean, he excelled at what he does. That's why he's so good, mate. No, but it is, Joe. Just tell us about your journey through there. You went through Queensland Uni, and what did you do there?
I did mechanical engineering there, so yeah, 4 years at University of Queensland. It's not 100% relating to motorsport, but you pick up all the techniques and all the methodology and engineering, and basically you just all experience. You just work in a racing team and learn it basically from scratch and go from the ground up.
I knew all of that. That's why I employed him. I bet you never thought you'd be working for this bloke.
Nah, not at all. Yeah.
Well, what happened? Why did you let him go?
Couldn't afford him. I just couldn't afford him.
Okay.
All right, thanks for the chat, guys.
No worries, thanks.
Larko, that checkbook just was never big enough, was it? Anyway, as you can see, the Fujitsu teams are hard at work changing to wet weather tyres to get race 2 of the weekend back underway. Let's have a look at the replay of the start. Jay Verdnick bogged it down and went nowhere. He was swallowed by the field, but David Russell on the outside had enough gap to turn in for turn 1.
Daniel Gawn from the second row got a cracking start as well. Tried to go around the outside of Jonathan Webb. Wasn't able to make it happen.
This is Ben Eggleston in a recently acquired VE Commodore. And look at the closing speed. He's only still going through the gears. Look how quickly he was going by the time he gets to Verdnick.
Yeah, Jay Verdnick had the reverse lights on there, didn't he? Really hard here. With a full tank of fuel, there'll be 100, 120 litres of fuel in the back of those cars, so plenty of revs on board. I did a practice start this morning in the Whale Racing Commodore. 60% throttle you have going with the car sitting on the limiter. It sounds terrible, but you better have too much throttle with that amount of fuel on board.
We'll get the Fujitsu V8 Supercars back underway shortly, but let's head back down to pit lane with Tommy Williams.
Wilson Security Racing have a new colour scheme going on this weekend. The cars are pink, the helmets are pink, the shirts are pink, and it's all for a great cause, the McGrath Foundation. Fabian Coulthard, how's the new colour scheme going down?
Hey, look, it's great. You know, it shows that, you know, any male can wear pink, and, you know, like you said, it's for a great cause, and, you know, what better place to do it than Bathurst?
Nice one. And the boys, they're all taking it pretty well?
Yeah, you know, it's a great thing because, you know, the cars stand out. We definitely stand out because we're in pink, and, you know, everyone asks questions, you know, why and how come, but, you know, because of the McGrath Foundation's come on board, and, you know, that's the reason for going pink.
It's a fantastic cause. Good luck this weekend.
No worries. See how you go in pink, eh?
Thanks, mate. Pink and grey. It's a good combo.
Awesome.
Fabian has been around the mountain a few times now. He's a big chance in tomorrow's race when Michael Patrizzi just missed out on the top 10 shootout yesterday. But this man, Jonathan Webb, he's in a pretty good position too. He'll line up with Warren Luff.
David, just to confirm, this will be the restart of the race will be an 8-lap race. Confirm an 8-lap race.
8-lap race, confirm 8-lap race. Thank you.
And now we'll look in pit lane there, Rob. Close, all cars left left. Thank you, Rog.
Damien to Paul.
Go ahead, Damien.
Team personnel allowed to climb the fence onto the grid.
A bit stoppage, so we'll now run over just 8 laps. And Grant Denyer, he's keen and ready to go. He's already on the grid before the rest of them.
Yeah, we saw Jonathan Webb there just weaving from side to side. The trick with this wet weather Dunlop tyre is to generate as much temperature as you possibly can. You can imagine now the circuit has just dropped temperature out of it, probably about 10 degrees. So it's not going to have a lot of grip in it. They've gone onto a completely new, brand new Dunlop tyre. They're going to generate the temperature in that, so they've got grip to get off this wet start line, dudes. It's going to be tricky.
And a lot of the issues here with wet weather tyres, the Fujitsu series hasn't had too many wet races throughout the year, so there might be some teams who haven't taken the shine off brand new wet weather tyres on a test day or at a practice session of a race meeting, so they might find themselves with a very tricky scenario on lap 1.
Now, I made the horrible mistake yesterday saying send some emails in if you've got a few Techo type questions. Well, I've got to say we've been bombarded, which is great. We won't be able to get to all of them, but we'll try and get to some of them. Here's one here from, this is David Blue sent in one, wondering why HRT have had clutch failures in previous years getting off the start line. Well, first of all, let's just have a little bit of a look at the scenario. This is a clutch out of a V8 supercar. Unlike your road car, the rules determine that this can't be any smaller than 180 millimetres. So it's a very, very small clutch, and it's got 3 drive plates in it. It's made of carbon, and the drive plates, all that torque and horsepower goes through that. That weighs absolutely nothing, look, like a frisbee. There's 3 of those. And what happens here at Bathurst, which is different to most circuits, is we use what's called a 3.15 ratio. So if we go to most circuits, here's your tyre. For every 1 revolution of your tyre, your tail shaft will do about 3.7 or 3.5 revolutions. But at Bathurst, your tyre, 1 revolution, your tail shaft only does 3.1. So that really means like putting your push bike in top gear. So when you're on the start line, you need to actually then really hold more revs on the car, feed the clutch out. But what HRT and a lot of teams have also is a little handbrake type of device. So as they feed the clutch out, they can hold their car there ready to go. Now, the extra torque that they need to do that and get that off the line puts enormous heat into what we just showed you were very small surface areas. They start to warp and buckle and don't make good contact, so they start slipping and not feeding the engine power to the rear wheels, and that means you just don't get off that line as you need to.
And the Fujitsu V8 Supercar boys, Larko, have got an added element here. They've got to do it on a wet racetrack, so they have to be very careful with that right foot.
And it's actually going to make it easier to get off the line with a wet racetrack. Better to have too much wheel spin than not enough, because that's when we're going to get into that problem, exactly as Mark just explained, where the clutch burns up, fries, and is no good to you.
So there's a number of drivers here who have never been to Bathurst in a V8 Supercar, and now they're getting a chance to have a look in wet weather. You've been there as a young guy. You made your debut here back in 2002 in a V8 Supercar. So it's still scary to think that you would have to do it like this.
I've been here for, this is my 7th year at Bathurst. I've never raced around here or driven around here in the wet. I've only heard stories. Brad told me a story once where he was driving around the pit, got on the radio to him and said to him, mate, it's really wet. There's going to be a massive accident in a minute. Keep pushing on because we'll get a safety car. And he said he got back on the radio. He goes, I know the accident is going to be me. So it's apparently very, very treacherous around here in the wet.
At least he was honest about it. The car's rolling up Petters Mountain straight. And this just gives them a chance just to have a look at the track, see where perhaps there's the odd puddle. It hasn't been a really heavy rain shower, but it's enough to put that element of doubt, particularly in a rookie driver's mind.
The other thing that's going to come into play here, Moons, is that wet weather is going to be sitting on top of a whole heap of slick rubber that has gone down over the last couple of days. We've also had some pretty warm temperature here. So what that does to the surface is it leaks out a whole heap of oil from the asphalt, and it makes it really, really greasy. Probably wouldn't be too bad if it had rained yesterday or the day before and brought some of that oil to the surface. So it's going to be interesting few laps, mate.
Have a look at this across the top. Plenty of surface water there on the run up towards McPhillamy Park. Blind crest across Bianti skyline and then dropping all the way down the hill. So we'll get this 8-lap race underway very shortly. But Tom Ernst is very busy this weekend. He's popped in at Jim Beam Racing.
James Courtney, there's been a bit of talk around the course over the weekend of the new publicity shot that you and Steve have got going.
This one?
Yeah, this one.
It's interesting. I've got a bit of flack about my hairdo.
Yeah, there's a bit of flack about the hairdo and also about a bit of lip gloss going on.
Lip gloss? Steve's the one that walks around with lip balm in his pocket. Look, he's actually got it here now. He's like the lip king. Shiny lip king, isn't he? Look,
they are very shiny lips.
Come on. He normally kisses me to put it on. He's dodgy. Look at Steve. He's got a crew cut there and a bit of makeup.
Thanks, boys. See you soon.
I'm very, very worried for tomorrow's race. Imagine what the driver changes are going to be like.
I actually thought the biggest problem going on there were those sunnies that James had on his head.
He's a fashionista from way back. Well, it's taken a little while. We will get this Fujitsu V8 Supercar race started, and having a look at the way that the cars are going to form up on the grid is in the order that they were when the yellow flag, initially the safety car period began. So instead of reverting back to the original grid positions, which were the finishing results of race 1 yesterday, they're going to restart from where they were, from basically the start line to the top of Mountain Straight.
Yeah, because we had 2 laps under the safety car, the rule with the red flag is when the red flag comes out, we revert back to the positions of the previous lap, where they were when they took off the line and headed up Mountain Straight. And it's the positioning that we're seeing right here.
Now, 8 laps around here, there is the real possibility that this could dry out a little bit, and looking after the wet weather tyre is critical as we have a look at them forming up. The Co-Tyre fly cam is covering pit straight for us this weekend at Bathurst. It's not a very long race, 8 laps, it's not much time, but if that sun shines through and dries up some of the road, they could be in a drum.
If it dries out, these guys are going to have to manage that Dunlop wet tyre. What happens is the block starts to heat up and it starts to move around a lot under the car. And whoever can deal with that will be best off if it dries out.
So David Russell for Howard Racing, second in the championship, needs to make some ground back on Jonathan Webb, because after this race, there's just 2 left. The final round, round 7, is supporting the big one, the Sydney Telstra 500 at Olympic Park at the start of December. So it's certainly still up for grabs, this championship. It's the 10th year of the Fujitsu Series. We've got the green flag at the back of the grid.
5 seconds.
It's the Fujitsu Series, take 2 at Mount Panorama. The wipers are on, and it's a case now of getting away from the line and being so careful. Jonathan Webb gets it rolling. James Moffat takes to the pit wall to go through on Damien Assailant, and the king of the starts, Grant Denyer, is already up to second spot.
David Russell really struggled with the grip there. Whoa, on eggshells. These boys were just struggling to put the blow to the ground.
Webb up on the curve. Brad Lowe forces Daniel Gaunt to the left, and look who's through. It's Denyer. Cresting the rise on Peters Mountain Straight. What a shot. And from second or third back, it's a Hayes. Look at Moffat going for a spot. In fact, he just backs out of it. Gets through on Gene Rollinson. Oh, this is knife-edge stuff.
It's going to be even more important now to be the first person leading across the top of the mountain. And at the moment, Grant Denyer is in the box seat. Before, when it was dry, you had a clear view and nobody was obstructing that. Now it's even more important because that spray that's coming up is going to be treacherous.
Grant Denyer and Jonathan Webb clearing away. David Russell made a terrible start. He's been buried in the pack. And Grant has won a couple of races this year. He has got to be a Supercar win at Bathurst to his name. He missed last year. This would mean so much, but he's got the form man in the Fujitsu Series right on his hat.
Such an excitable character, isn't he, Grant Denyer? This would be great to see him win it. Just so that we can see what happens when he gets up onto that podium. He would go absolutely nuts. I did notice Dave Russell didn't have his wiper on the start grid there, and I thought, what's going on there, Dave? I thought he was mega confident he's going to get off the line so well. He's not going to need a wiper, but it went on very quickly when he was buried in the pack.
So Denyer leads the way. This is an ex-Jim Beam Racing Falcon. The same car, finished third in really similar conditions in that wet race 2 years ago with Stevie Johnson and Will Davison. And Webb has got the lights on. He means business.
We've seen Grant lead a fair few races this year and go through to win them. So it wouldn't surprise me. This is going to be a really good race between these 2 guys. Webb is the form man, and he's going to be putting the pressure on Grant. Grant is hungry for the win here at Bathurst.
Have a look at James Moffat too, the Norton 360 Sonic Motor Racing Falcon is up to 4th in behind Brad Lowe, the Haynes Brothers Falcon, who's having his first run in a V8 Supercar. Up here at Bathurst, there's Damien Assailant in the Fujitsu Falcon, and Moffat looks like he's really pacey in these very wet conditions, and anytime he can step offline and make a move like that means the driver's got confidence.
Good job, mate, good job.
But he's got the confidence in the car as Webb now looks for the lead at turn 1. Squeezes up the inside, Grant's wide. Look at the sideways motion here from Webb, and Denyer now's got the run up Peters Mountain Straight, but it narrows here into turn 2.
Webb just struggling to get the 600 horsepower down to the ground in these wet conditions. As they go over the crest of that hill there, even in the wet, these cars are getting really, really light. I think James Moffat's the man to watch here. He's got a lot of pace in that Norton 360 car. Not a lot of V8 Supercar experience, but he has a lot of racing experience, and racing is in his blood, isn't it? I hate to use the term, mate, but he has a pedigree, and he knows what to do around this place. He was born with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Alan, his father, 4-time Bathurst winner, is here to see his young fellow tackle the mountain in a V8 for the first time. He's been here in the Porsche Carrera Cup and the 12-hour production car race, but this is a whole new ballgame. He sits third at the moment. David Russell has managed to recover. He sits now in 6th spot, but Webb is the fastest car on the road. There's a replay of the start. Moffat goes to the left. In fact, grazed the wall as well. And there's David Russell, the Shearer Rentals Falcon, still getting wheel spin before the break is over.
These wet conditions are going to help some of the guys that are running a softer setup in their cars. People like Webby, he's in an ex-FPR Falcon. That car generally runs fairly stiff as far as springs and bar setups are concerned. So it surprises me that that car's got that much pace in the wet. It doesn't surprise me that James Moffat has that much pace because a 888 car generally is a soft car.
Speak of the devil, there he is, the man himself, Alan Moffat. And here is his young fella, James, in the slipstream on Grand Denia. For the run back down Conrod straight. Webb has got away by about 5.5 seconds. And you just need to be circumspect here. It's easy to get a bit too impatient. Grant leaves him some room.
James was not able to make the move stick.
Easy to line it up there on the exit of the chase.
Lots of oversteer happening there from James's car. It's actually really tricky, even in the dry, to get around that corner flat. You get a lot of oversteer in the car, so it's going to be even worse in the wet conditions. I think James just needs to be patient here and just get by Grant cleanly, put his head down, and try and hunt down Jonathan.
That time around, Jonathan Webb, 2 minutes 34.05. Grant Denia, 37.5. It doesn't matter, Moffat goes with him. And they give second spot to
keep it ready, spin it round. Moffat's gone off as well.
That's Greg Wheeler, Grant's engineer. And that will drop him now to the back of the top 10. And let this man off the hook last time around, hitting 2:34.05. Brad Lowe, who's now second, 2:38.65.
That looked to be just a case of James Moffat driving off the back of Grant's car. We noticed Grant got in too deep. He's tried to pull it up, couldn't pull it up. James has gone and done the same thing because he was stuck behind the back of Grant. He was just using that car as his brake marker. Both gone in too hot.
This is Brad Lowe in one of 3 Matthew White Motorsport Falcons. Here's the replay at turn 1. Grant's in deep with it locked up. James has got the rear going, and they both end up heading where they shouldn't be.
And look how slick that circuit is down there. You can just hear the engine die there on James's car. What's happened there is James has jumped on the brakes hard, wheels are locked, engine power's gone, no braking ability, just spun it round.
Good job, keep it calm, we've got 5 to go.
is 15 seconds. Have a look at this. That is huge.
It's nearly the length of Mountain Straight. When did you see a leader lead a race by that margin up here at Bathurst, mate?
Particularly after 6 laps.
Unbelievable.
This is Daniel Gaunt, the young Kiwi, who's making his debut here this weekend. He'll be in the number 4 Stone Brothers Falcon with John McIntyre. Tomorrow, Brad Lowe will be with Damien Saylor in the main race. They're a wildcard entry. And they've done a great job this weekend. That's Jeff Emery, who's got a problem. Looks like it's on the way up Mount Straight. Spun yesterday and it ended up in the sand. This is Andrew Anderson, the young Kiwi. Just staying out of the sand. Easy to do on debut in a V8 Supercar.
Lots of experience in the New Zealand V8 Tours, Andrew Anderson, but these V8 Supercar have a lot more horsepower to put to the ground than what the New Zealand cars do.
And this was going on while we were away. David Russell and James Moffat arguing over turn 1. And this is down at the elbow. Jeff Emery just bouncing off the wall there, clearly with a drama. So we're riding car with Moffat, 4th in the race in the moment. This is the next Crane Lounge team Vodafone chassis that Sonic have taken over for this year. They run 2 cars and he gets in the back of Daniel Gaunt.
Just gave him a little bit of a love tap there. I don't know whether that's part of the spirit of the game, mate.
Whoa! Got to the kick on Conrod and had the arms everywhere. You'll notice the Fujitsu series using the H-Pump 6-speed gearbox.
Even in these wet conditions, still 6th gear deep Conrod Straight. Well over 250 kilometres an hour. Very, very brave stuff.
And now Gaunt is falling back into the clutches of David Russell. But Jonathan Webb is absolutely smashing. That time around, 2 minutes 32. Brad Lowe in second is just driving onto pit straight. There he is. In the Haynes Brothers.
Good job, 3 laps to go.
The margin's 18 seconds.
Jonathan Webb could almost afford, in these conditions, to come through pit lane, grab a cup of soup, and then head back out and still be leading the race.
Let's have a look at this moment with Moffat. Just gives Gaunt a bit of a push. Now check it out when he gets to the kink here. Small kink of the road.
On the rat stops. It doesn't get any worse than that.
Check this angle out. Oh my goodness. I can't look at that.
There'll be people from the Australian Drift Championship looking at that going, how has he done that?
That's crazy stuff, but he's still marching towards second place. But of course in the Fujitsu series, it's the old format. It's rounds, not individual race podiums as it is with the championship series. So James could end up in the top few in this race, but it won't be enough to put him onto the podium for the weekend. Nervous times. Alan Moffat watching on. Ian Luff in the background. Warren Luff's father as well.
Although this battle here is not for the podium position, James is a racer. He'll want to get past. He'll want to finish second for this race. He'll want to make up for the bad day that he had yesterday, I guess, the mistake that he made down at the chase.
He's proven this year, first year in the V8s, that he is a racer. He's not afraid to get in there and throw it around. He's made some mistakes. The first year in, he's never done more than 1 year in each category, but he's used Formula 4 and Carrera Cup. He's done 1 year and jumped to the next thing, so it's an impressive effort. And Brad Lowe is under massive pressure now, but he's driven very straightly in a spare chassis first team because his normal car is actually the car that he and a Sailor are driving in the main race tomorrow. So they've wheeled this car out from the Matthew White workshop, had a brief test at Winton, and doing a great job.
I like the way Brad's driving that car. He's keeping it really straight. He's doing a great job on the brakes. James is having a little bit of gear in the chase. It's a terrific move.
Just slows it up enough for the Mavics. And they'll slow low down and give Daniel Gaunt in the McElroy Racing Falcon a little bit of a run. Now Gaunt is not locked in for the last round in Sydney, but a good result here might just push things further along in terms of raising the necessary sponsorship dollars. But he and Russell...
We're done, mate. 2 laps to go, 2 laps to go.
They're fighting for 4th and 5th in the race. If they finish as they are, Morton will get second on the podium. And if Russell gets by, he takes second for the weekend.
They're actually locked at 249 points apiece for the weekend. So this is actually a battle for a podium position spot.
This is a replay with Grant Denyer, 7th on the road. That's Ben Eggleston to the left. Up to the cutting. 7th and 8th. And Grant is a bit more grip there on the outside. Goes on through. With Moffat clearing away.
Some credit to Ben Eggleston there. That's a great bit of driving on his behalf. But easy to turn into Grant and stuff him into the fence, but he's actually given him room. Top of the drive.
And that's his first run in a VE Commodore that just recently was acquired from Walkinshaw Racing, a former County top HSV chassis. So still learning things, Ben, from Orange nearby. So this is as close to a hometown race as he's going to get in the Fujitsu Series. David Russell here is going to dump some more points to Jonathan Webb in this second race. So he needs to go to Sydney with a mindset of winning. And whatever Webb does, Webb controls. He can't control that.
Best way to win a championship is just to go out there aiming for race wins. The rest will take care of itself. As we see some blue skies out over the horizon there from the top of the mountain. Incredible to think that only a few minutes ago it was bucketing down with rain. We've still got plenty of spray going on off the circuit here. So that's going to play into a few teams' minds down in the pit lane at the moment as they prepare for the shootout.
Let's have a look at this again. I have to see this again. James Moffat. Actually, I don't think I wanted to see that again. And look at the reaction here. Almost a cheeky grin. Oh, gee, boy. Ooh.
They can laugh in the pit lane, but I bet you James wasn't laughing in the driving seat of that. He was showing his attention.
He was slightly busy at the time. Jonathan Webb marching away. Just 22 seconds in front. Moffat second. That's this fight. But Jonathan Webb, third year in the Fujitsu Series, highly experienced in Porsche Carrera Cup.
Hadn't won a race leading into Queensland earlier on in the year. Won all 3 races up there. It just boosted his confidence immensely. And he's come to Bathurst with the sort of confidence that we want to see from a Fujitsu Series champion.
Yeah, absolutely. That's Steve Webb, Jonathan's father, left of screen watching on as his young fellow rockets around Mount Panorama. He's on the final lap in race 2 for the Fujitsu Series. And you cannot have done it any better. He dominated Queensland and won all 3 races, which hadn't been done in 6 years. Of course, there's a reverse top 10 in race 2 regularly at the 3-race weekend. So that was quite an achievement. And this would be his 5th race win in a row. But this one is not decided for 3rd, 4th and 5th. And Damien Assailant not too far away in the Fujitsu Falcon. But still, 2nd and 3rd for the weekend is up for grabs between Gordon Russell, and this is Grant Denyer. And I'd say he's in the wall at turn 2 in the tyre bundle, and he's in a long way trying to find reverse.
You okay, Grant? You fine?
That looks very buried, doesn't it? There we go. There's
there
the outside shot. That's a hard impact.
Some tyre bundles.
Grant, please reply. Are you okay?
Submarined under it. In too deep at turn 2. It won't turn.
You can see Grant moving in the cockpit there, so he is okay, which is great to see.
He probably just doesn't want to read into it right about now. I'm giving you the tip. Jonathan Webb taking off down the mountain, going faster each time around as the track just starts to dry out. The margin's 22.5 seconds. That's academic. He's going to get home quite comfortably here. Just a couple of corners, he can cruise it on through and do it in style.
You say cruise it on through. He's just set the quickest 2 sectors of this race. Obviously the track's dry, but he has a 22-second lead. You'd think he'd be able to take it a little bit easy, just make sure he gets across the line. But that's why these guys are out there. They're racing there.
Absolutely. The end of round 6 of the Fujitsu Supercars.
Awesome work. Yeah, awesome work.
And it sure has been. Jonathan Webb has smashed them at the mountain.
You've got to go into, you'll be cool down, no cool down. You'll be leaving the track now.
300 championship points, and he'll extend the margin with just 2 races and 1 round to go. Oh boy, this man has given us some entertainment this weekend. James Moffat, the Norton 360 Falcon, will sneak it home for 2nd spot, a long way down the road. Brad Lowe in 3rd. And David Russell is going to have a go here and try to get to Daniel Gawn. But the Kiwi finishes fourth, and he gets second for the weekend, and that's his second consecutive podium finish.
Terrific job by Daniel Gawn, very new to the series. Wonderful to look at James Moffat here, but Daniel Gawn, I think he's coming along leaps and bounds, and I reckon he'll be one to watch next year. Jonathan Webb, though, hats off to him. Pole position, 2 race wins. Congratulations to James Moffat. While Webby's been out front dominating, Moffat's been providing the entertainment.
Well, someone's got to do it when Webb drives away like that. But boy, oh boy, we do set up now for a championship decider on the streets of Sydney. Grant Denny will be there for Dick Johnson Racing. A bad day for him today. Let's have a look at the way that it finished in race 2. Damien Assailed in 6th. Great job. Ben Eggleston, the new VE Commodore, in 7th. Gene Rollinson, Jay Verdnick and Drew Russell in the ex-Brad Jones Racing Falcon. Rounded up the top 10. The Fujitsu V8 Supercars are done.